chair of Punjab and Sikh Studies needed. First of all, certainly 30 million strong global Sikh community, about 70% of which is based in India, and majority of that in the Punjab, but 30% is globally situated mainly in England, Canada, America, but also Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia, Thailand, and smaller communities all over the world. And but if you add to that 30 billion strong Sikh community, the Punjabi communities, other Punjabi communities from other religious traditions or even non-religious traditions, I think rough figure would be more than 100 million, and which is more than Germany's population, which is the largest European country. It's about 80 million. So we have a substantial base, and there is so much German studies just to compare. So we have a basis for having a chair in studies or center in studies about this community, which is expanding and the dynamic community. In the UK, so far there have been isolated attempts. There are things which are being done on Punjab and Sikh studies. One of them is the Punjab Research Group, which I and Kanta have been involved for many years. It has been running since 1984. Punjab Research Group used to meet thrice in a year. The dates were always fixed. Last Saturday of January, June and October, and for many years it used to meet for 3 years. But for the last about 10 years it meets twice a year, last Saturday of October and last Saturday of June. And Punjab Research Group has been very useful, especially for young researchers. And it is a kind of mixture of established scholars and young people, because we have very established scholars. And in fact, some of the people who started Punjab Research Group, many of them were students. Gurhar Pal, I wasn't one of the founders, I joined a little later. Gurhar Pal, who's a professor at SWAS now, Shinder Thandi, who's at the moment in University of California, Santa Barbara, but taught for many years in Coventry. Eleanor Nesbitt, who retired recently from University of Warwick. Darshan Tatla, who taught in a college in Birmingham for many years, now has kind of semi-retired and lives half the time in India and half the time here. These were the four kind of founders, and then I joined them a few years later, and Ian Talbot, who works on the Western Punjab. So we have been doing this work where Punjab Research Group has provided the foundation for a number of young scholars who are doing their PhD or they're presenting their first paper, and also meeting people who are established scholars. We also launched a journal in 1999, International Journal of Punjab Studies, and we organized the first international conference on Punjab Studies, which was called Punjabi Identity in Continuity and Discontinuity in 1999, and that conference was then edited into a book, which I co-edited with Shinder Thandi, called Global Punjabi Identity in a Global Context, published by OUP in 1999. That journal has slightly changed now. It's called Journal of Punjab Studies. It's published from University of California, Santa Barbara, where Gurinder Maan had been the chair for a long time. Recently, he has left that chair. So that's one kind of development which has been taking place in the UK. But apart from the Punjab Research Group, there have been scholars on their own who have been studying, sometime in very difficult circumstances, like I'm based in a faculty of business, and they asked me, why do you keep on bothering about Punjab? Do work on global business, and you're very bright, and this and that, and we want you to do this. I said, well, I'll do whatever global business and global economy, but I will not leave Punjab. And now, because India is rising in importance, they think, oh, it was a good thing you can continue your interest. And we're getting students to supervise, and so similarly, like Priya is another example, and Jasjeet, I think he's going to come. He's in Leeds, Shinder in Coventry, Eleanor in Warwick, and other people in Southampton, in Manchester. Individually, people have been doing their work, but it needs consolidation. Okay, it needs, all these efforts need to be consolidated, and that's one of the reasons we think that there is a need for either a center for Punjab and Sikh Studies in the UK, if not, I mean, maybe more than one center, but certainly at least one center in Punjab and Sikh Studies. If not a center, at least a chair of Punjab and Sikh Studies. I'll mention a little bit about this chair and center conflict or chair and center issue. Fourth, that almost all other important religious traditions and national cultures have their chairs and centers of study. I mean, there's a chair, there's a center of Hindu studies, there is a center of Jewish Hebrew studies, there's a huge center coming from Islamic studies. There is also a center for Brazilian studies, and